Hello, hello. Bl'Artagnan here with Around the Fire, Gladio Lost Chapter Lufenia. Wanted to try Sabin out in this event since he's the featured character and I feel like he's not getting as much love as he maybe deserves. We're actually starting off here with the Bartz LD Gravity into the Bartz regular call, because I noticed the funny thing about Sabin is if you don't want to die to the orb within the first few turns of the fight, he by himself needs to go first, or you need to get real lucky with things because he has to, get the imperil up before he can delay them. So I ended up just using Bart's call to get the job done there. Now, before we get into this, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to support the channel, I really appreciate it, and leave a comment down below with what team you brought. I'd like to hear from you. You can also check out myself, Raw Life, and Type Zoe every Monday night at 8:30 Eastern on Raw Life's Twitch channel, which I will link in the description. We do a little live stream, talk some DFFOO. It's a good time. Look forward to seeing you there. So this is a team of Sabin, Eldnarsh, and Sarah. You might be thinking to yourself, Bl'Art, you handsome devil, you can't run a delayer with Eldnarsh. Eldnarsh is all about off-turn damage. His whole deal is getting those free warp turns. You want the boss to be taking turns. You can't be delaying them. And you'll see that it ends up being not quite as anti-synergistic as you'd think. Because I'm going to actually say this is going to be a no-summon, no-friend unit run. We're going to be killing the bosses within the turn limit without using either of those resources. And still doing it in less time than the average Eldnarsh run. So I'll take that. I actually don't use Eldnarsh that often, so my play maybe isn't as pristine as some of the other runners you'll see out there. I know some girl on YouTube, who I will also link in the description, is a prolific Eldnarsh fan and player, as is Type Zoe, I believe. And of course, Mino Spellgood of the TCC channel, of the Crystal Chronicles podcast, Jesus. Also a outspoken fan of using Eldnarsh, although not a fan of advertising Eldnarsh. With good reason. It's a very quirky character. Anyway, I don't want to spend the whole video talking about Eldnarsh. This is not the Eldnarsh show. This is supposed to be the Sabin show, despite the number of turns Eldnarsh will be taking. So actually, why did I decide to go with this team here? The main reason is because I actually found that I was having some trouble not using Garland here, and that was something I wanted to try to do just because an overwhelming majority of the clears I was seeing featured Garland somewhere, and I wanted to try to differentiate myself a little bit. I mean, my other run of this used Garland as well, because he's fantastic here. But to see what happened with Sabin without Garland, and since it turns out I have very few delay units in my at my disposal, I had to use a lockdown unit. Eldnarsh also works really well here because he brings a ton of defense down, and these guys have gigantic defense. So you'll see Eldnarsh and Sarah hitting for respectable damage despite, the lack of imperil. You might also have noticed by this point that I forgot to give Sabin his high armor. I realized about 2/3 of the way through the run, oh yeah, he's hitting for 9s, wait a second. And by that point I figured, you know what? We're in deep. We'll get it. We'll finish this, and right after the fight, I'll go ahead and get him his high armor, which I can say. I can put your mind at ease and say, yes, he is now the proud owner of whatever his high armor is. It's like a red shirt or something. That might have been the. Anyway, yeah, just kind of locking these guys down, getting them close to that 79 or 69% mark, where they're going to go into that next phase of. Ridiculous defense and brave gain and turning off your battery and all that jazz. You can go ahead and bring them both down there now. We're going to be relying on Sabin to power through this part of the fight. Or at least this phase, that defense ignore. I'm thinking now, I see the shiny EX button, but I decide, you know what, we gotta break them both, so we're gonna go ahead and Tiger Break. I actually, with Sabin I forgot, I meant to get his high armor. With Cloud of Darkness I chose not to. because I've been trying to think about how I want to be spending my, my purple and blue armor resources. Because on the one hand, we get Lufenia tokens pretty darn freely. It's not too hard to, basically, one character per event. That's pretty good. And so my policy has been, whenever I get a character with an LD, I give them the high armor. But lately I've been thinking about possibly it being more valuable to hang on to some of the tokens so that I could blue, like, maybe 1 or 2 extra favorites over the course of the next couple months. I'm not really sure, so, you know what? In addition to that comment I made about, or the comment I asked for with your team, leave a comment down below with your thoughts on how you have been using your purple and blue armor resources. You can either add it to the first comment, or if you really want to help the algorithm and really give me a hand, you can just comment a second time. Let's really mess with YouTube. Make them think I'm more popular than I actually am. Anyway. Jeez. Eldnarsh gameplay is... I find him kind of fun to play. He's just not super exciting to watch all the time, especially at 2x speed, because stuff keeps happening. But the general gist I'm going for here, which I've been trying to pull off, is making sure that the EX is ready to go in time to reapply Terra whenever I need it. Spamming HP plus on most turns, and just balancing up my skill usage to keep that EX charge going. Finally got them below 50%, about halfway through the video, halfway through the run. That's a funny thing about having no friend, no boss, or no summon, and no burst, is we don't really have that big chunk of damage, and so halfway is actually halfway. That said, thanks to the defense down in the imperil, our damage is actually going to be pretty consistent. Maybe a little bit lower, but I was pleasantly surprised. I was kind of worried that it was going to drop off a cliff once they went below 50%, and we're still hitting decently hard. I think Sarah's brave regen is a huge help in that regard. Actually, it's funny thinking about Sarah. I'm going to try to post my Queen Should You Pull later today. I've been kind of reading over her kit and trying to decide what I think about her, things like that. Now I'll get into this in the video, but as you know, those things are 4 minutes because that's how long the royalty-free music lasts, and so I probably won't be able to get super detailed, but it's funny now using Sarah, I'm reminded of something I want to say, or somebody said back when she was released with her LD. I have similar thoughts about Queen because they're both kind of strong aura bots with good, with just kind of good numbers they bring to the party. And that's not always the most exciting, but sometimes it's just valuable to have a character who, in slot number 3, you could just kind of drop and be like, okay, this is, this character's just here to make the characters who the fight actually requires better, the offensive, the defensive, and that's what Sarah's doing here. She's just kind of sitting and letting the 2 major players, Sabin and Eldnarsh, do their work as best as they can. I think sometimes that gets a little bit undervalued. Because it's kind of an invisible benefit. I mean, I've said before, I don't really like playing Sarah that much because her buttons aren't very satisfying, and I stand by that. Her actual gameplay is not super satisfying right now because of how old her kid is. But, much like with Eldnarsh, you can't deny the power. What am I doing? Did I? Oh yeah, I think at some point I dropped Kurasame call on there. I think folks usually use this call for the kind of burst damage, which I mean it's very good for. Obviously, these are boss turns, keep it 5 stacks the whole time. It's going to be a super quick run. But something else I like about Kurasame call that I think maybe gets overlooked occasionally is you get to double dip it, and that means you get to stretch it over the course of several turns. And even at 1 stack, it's 10% HP damage up, that's the same as Gabranth or Ignis. Like, That is nothing to sneeze at. So the fact that you can just kind of have that going for, you know, 1/3 to half the fight is that's helpful, especially for an enemy phase team like this one, pseudo enemy phase. So a reason I actually kind of like Sabin and Eldnarsh together, this is kind of weird, is I found my favorite way to play Eldnarsh is with a character, well, one with a character like Sarah who just buffs him, but I also like playing him alongside a character who who brings, how to put it, I don't want to say mitigation because that usually means HP mitigation, but who brings some stuff to offset the issues Eldnarsh can run into, in terms of kind of burnout or whatever. And Sabin brings the two things I think that come in handy, which are damage, just so that the run ends a bit quicker, and he brings turn denial. You know, he brings delays. I've ran him alongside Arciello before with the HP silence, just like things like that. Basically, the idea being that way, if you do need, you know, some extra wiggle room to, you know, to get an extra charge of your EX before you know, to get Terra ready or something like that, you have that wiggle room. Because I think a problem I sometimes run into while using Eldnarsh is fatigue. Because the run takes so long, you have to kind of plan everything out so meticulously, which is fun to do in its own way. Having that extra cushion and knowing, okay, you know, if I need to use an extra delay to kind of give us some breathing room so I can kind of get myself right, it takes the pressure off, and I find that makes Eldnarsh easier to use, if that makes sense. We've apparently gotten to the philosophical section of the video. My God, this is a long one. Normally, I would say something like, if you've stuck with me thus far, leave a comment down below. I don't know, discussing your philosophy on morality. You know, just, I don't know, some kind of pithy comment below to let me know that you're still here with me, and as a little thank you, we can play a little game together. You know, I've already done that twice, so. Maybe we don't need to this time, but you know, it gives me something to talk about, giving you something to talk with me about, engagement and all that shit. You know, YouTube loves that jazz. It's also pretty fascinating to hear your thoughts. So as you can see here, we're running pretty low on Eldnarsh. During this run, I didn't go into this thinking, okay, no summon, no friend unit. I went into it thinking, you know, okay, I'll swap out Eldnarsh at the 50% mark, yada yada yada. You know, summon, whatever. And then I realized, hey, you know, we could probably just we could do one of those no summon, no friend unit runs that I never usually do because I don't have the patience for it, really. I just, you know, I don't got that kind of time. I figured, you know what, we're already on pace to do it. Let's do it. Let's put something unique on the board for me. Pushing him back. I also will say, I think I've said this before, Eldnarsh received a significant buff in the form of the debuff menu on the bosses, showing how long Terror and Warp are without you needing to, like, count the number of debuffs before you check the menu and all the stupid fiddly bits that you used to have. Which is just fantastic. Really makes him a lot more fun to play, because if you need to be like, is Terror still up? How many turns does Warp have left? You just check them out and you see it, and it's incredible. We've said before that, you know, this game, probably one of the biggest faults this game has is it has a lot of information and doesn't always do the greatest job of conveying it. So the fact that they've added that quality of life is outstanding, and I cannot thank Squex enough for making that a feature of the game now. Alright, we've gone ahead and we've reapplied Warp and Terror for the last time. Itching that summon button. I want to press it so badly. We're so close. Just trying to seal them out, you know, finish them off. Here's our last Omega Javelin. Well, second to last, thanks to Onion Knight. I like using Onion Knight on Eldnarsh to get an extra AA usage in most cases, but anyway, the fight's done. We're not talking about Eldnarsh anymore. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I can promise you Sabin will be getting his high armor next time you see him. Adios.